Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Stefan on the French Cooking Academy, and it is the place to be if you want to learn about authentic French cuisine. As always, if you don't want to miss any video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to become a member of the Academy, there's a link popping up on the screen to join our cooking club. This week, we're going to leave the techniques behind it. We've seen the mini-series, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to answer one simple question that everybody's been asking me for a long time, which is, what do you eat when you're not filming and you're not doing French food? And I'm going to be sharing today one of my go-to recipe, which is based on salmon. It's just a salmon encrusted in couscous, baked in the oven, and served with a simple mix of tomato, olive, parsley with a vinaigrette. It's simple to make. It doesn't require the stove. It all happens in the oven. It is super quick. And if you've never tried it, you will be surprised that a piece of salmon can be that good. Let's begin. Now, if you're looking for a very simple recipe based on salmon and something that you can add to your meal rotation, trust me, this is it. What you need: salmon fillet, so skin off. Okay, you can buy them with the skin off, or you can remove the skin yourself. These are going to be rolled in couscous. Couscous is this. It's a grain. It's drum with a grain. It is used in Northern Africa. The couscous in France is a dish. It's not just the grain, and you have to put boiling water into it. I'll show you, and it's gonna kind of really hydrate and double in volume, and we're going to use this to roll the salmon to make a crust for the salmon to protect it. And this is going to be cooked in the oven. With that, we're just going to serve a vinaigrette. Okay, so salt, pepper, oil, vinegar, a bit of grain mustard, a bit of parsley, and we're going to throw in some roughly chopped Kalamata olives. Here they're pitted, there's no pit, and some tomatoes that's been peeled, seeded, and cut in little cubes. Okay? And that's all we need. All right, so now let's go step by step. We begin first by preparing the salmon, of course. If you need to remove the skin, I'm going to keep this in the fridge while we prepare the couscous. To make the couscous, we're going to be using a large bowl. In the couscous in here, we're going to throw about a tablespoon, or you can go up to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, like this, a little bit. Oh, that's enough. And you're going to put some water in your kettle or in a pan, and you're going to boil about 200 milliliters of water. Why 200? Because in order to make a couscous to hydrate it, you take the same weight that you have a couscous of water. So I've got 200 grams of couscous, and I'm going to add on top 200 grams of water. That's it. It's going to go in here. While the water is boiling, take a fork, or you can take your hand, and typically it's with your hand. And this is optional, by the way. This is the classic way of doing it. You first kind of mix this grain in olive oil before adding the water. Okay, so I'm using a fork on my hand, but you can use your hand if you want. Wash your hand as always. Always good. See, we get a nice mixture, like this kind of grain like that. Perfect. After that, we take our bowl and put all the couscous in here. My water is ready, so remember, equal amounts. So I've got 200 grams with the same amount of boiling water. Up. I'm not even thinking of anything. I'm mixing this like that. I'm going to add a plate on top, and I'm going to leave this to sit for about 5 minutes. So in fact, what I'm doing here is preparing lunch because we haven't had lunch yet. So the parsley, you see these big branches for the parsley. You don't start chopping the whole thing like this with the branch. Typically, if you have parsley, you tend to get rid of all the big stuff, the branches. I keep on saying branches, that's what I mean. I mean, you don't want a plate with these in your food. I mean, that's terrible. So get rid of that. Put that in a compost, or if you have chickens or whatever, in a chicken coop. And this, always the same. You can start with a simple chop. If you don't use a knife very often, you gather everything and you do that cross chop. And that's one of the simplest things you can do. And after that, we're also going to be roughly chopping the olives. So I'm going to take the olives, put them on the board, and do a rough chop. So nothing fancy, nothing too fine. You want to keep it coarse. Olives, I'm showing you a little bit because it's going to make a massive mess on my board here. But same thing, you take all your olive and the cross chop. There's no pit in these olives, so you can, you gather them. If you're not sure how to use a knife, you start with this simple kind of cross chop. Always put your hand on top of the knife to avoid somewhere there you're going to cut yourself. But you gather the stuff and you chop. So not too small again, you don't want a puree of olives. That is way enough. So we are done for the basic mise en place. I've got the tomatoes ready, I've got the olives, I've chopped my parsley, and my couscous is here. It's ready, and now we're going to use a fork to detach the grains. And now for the action, it's called égrener, and to detach the grains. So we talk about égrener, we talk about a grape, for instance. You remove all of the individual grapes, and it's called égrener. So égrener in this case, you see it's a kind of a lump. So what we're doing, égrener, we're detaching. So now we see the individual grains. So I'm gonna, like a rake, I'm raking the bottom here very gently. And I'm gonna transform that beautiful thing to a very fluffy mixture. So you see it's almost doubled in volume. All right, so now we're gonna kind of work with our hands, and we're gonna almost like bread the salmon with the couscous. So I'm adding some couscous here, so that's almost like breadcrumbs. Huh? Okay, some couscous here. I'm gonna take with my hand, wash your hand, a piece of salmon, put it in here. And all what we're gonna do, we're gonna start to, like the Kulibiak video, by the way, I put a link in the video description, where we've used salmon, and we're gonna simply encrust that salmon with the couscous. So it's kind of fragile, so you have to press it in on the side and stuff like that, and make a little mold like this. You can take more couscous if you want. And then we're gonna put this into a baking dish. Okay, so you want a nice kind of crust like this, you want to encrust the whole thing. Up, and you press the side like this. Good. So what I've showed you here is the salmon on its own rolled into the couscous, which is of course contains gluten. If you are gluten intolerant, you can replace the couscous with other grains like quinoa flakes, in which case you're going to have to roll your salmon into a beaten egg to help for the thing to stick. So here very gently, I'm just carrying one piece of salmon and I'm putting it on here. All right, and I'm going to do the other one. Once both of your salmon have been coated with the couscous, I don't know if I mentioned there was a drizzle of olive oil at the bottom. You're going to warm up your oven to 200 degrees Celsius with the fan force, which is around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to put this straight into the oven, and you can count about 20 minutes typically when it's done. And you're going to have that nice golden color, like a crust on the couscous. If you put this into the oven and it seems to cook too fast, depends on the types of oven you have. You can reduce the temperature maybe to 190 or 180 minimum, but typically 200 is good. All right, so I'm going to put this in the oven, and while this is cooking, we'll do the dressing. So now we've got plenty of time, so let's have a look at the dressing. So the basics of French dressing, the French vinaigrette, was the same. 1 or 2 pinch of salt. I'm making a double measure, and typically it is 1 measure of vinegar for 3 measure of oil. But here, the vinaigrette is the only thing you're going to get as a sauce. And remember, the couscous is a bit dry, and so we want something with plenty of things and plenty of vinaigrette, plenty of juice to accompany that salmon. So we've got salt and pepper. I've got here 2 tablespoons, and double measure of a good quality white wine vinegar, and I'm going to add some grain mustard. And the amount of mustard you use, it's up to you. And you want to start that emulsion here. So emulsifying. So remember all these little things I'm teaching here on the video. This is exactly the kinds of things you're going to have by joining our club and have access to our courses. It is pure culinary education that you're going to find. A beginner course, for instance, takes on average 6 months to complete for people that have been following it. So it's not a gimmick at all. Oil. Okay, bit by bit, like a mayonnaise. This is a standard oil. You can use olive oil. It will add a bit of a bitter, a kind of a bitter taste in there that I don't particularly like for this. That is the base. We're emulsifying. We've got a bit of a dressing. And from here, what we're going to do is to add all of that garnish in there. So I'm going to take a fork, wait, because this is not proper. All right, so let's go back. So I could have taken, just for you a small bit here, but this is a big sauce / dressing. So I've got this, I've got my parsley. I'm going to flavor the whole lot with some olives. So I've got 100 grams of each. You don't have to use everything. Every single time I'm making this, it differs. Sometimes I feel I want more olives, less olive, something like that, more parsley. I'm like, I'm going to put a bit of this, more of that, but it is really more of a sauce than a dressing, and we're going to leave it here to cook almost in that bowl. So the tomatoes are going to reduce in here, and they're going to render some juices, so it's going to be nice and infused for when the salmon is ready. You don't want something too liquid neither, because we have the salmon to have. But all in all, that's it. The salmon is out of the oven. It took me actually just 25 minutes. And what I'm waiting typically for is this. You have just a golden crust, and typically when that's just about golden, it's finished. I turn the heat off, I take this out. So to serve, it's very simple. You take one piece of salmon, you pour over about 2 or 3 tablespoons of that mixture, and that's it. You can have a few lettuce leaves on the side, and it is that simple. So I'm gonna dish that up onto a plate, and then degustation time. Here we are, table is served. So I put my piece of salmon here, crusted, and 2 or 3 tablespoons, as I said, of that mixture. So you want plenty of that mixture of the tomato with the olives and everything. Now, only thing that I've noticed, I've cracked this open because the dish I've used today was not the usual one, a bit smaller, quite cramped, with the edges quite high. That has resulted into my salmon, I think, being too slightly overcooked in here. I don't know if you're going to notice this. Not a big deal, but keep in mind with dishes. So typical cooking time, 20 minutes for me, but here 25, you see, was a little bit too long. So now for me here, you know what? It still works pretty good. So the salmon, the crust, and if you never had salmon with couscous like this, I'm telling you, it's a great match. It absolutely goes, it's lovely. And that little dressing is absolutely brilliant. And this is my lunch. See guys, nothing complicated. What's the kind of thing I'm doing when I'm not filming, on the go, I don't have much time. Piece of salmon, little dressing, and I'm good to go. One last piece for the road. Yep, that's it. So there we have it. It's crunchy, it's tangy, it's easy to make, and it is something that is out of the ordinary. Crusted salmon, maybe you've never tried that. So use the comment section, tell me what you think of what you see, and if you try the recipe, tell me as well. And I think that I'm gonna throw at you a few other easy recipes for the next coming weeks, and to take a break from the techniques, because there's plenty of them, and it's part of the cuisine de ménage, and it is the true style of French home cooking. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. And as I told you at the beginning, remember, if you want to join us on the cooking club, link in the video description. There's more than 1,000 people coming. Do not miss out. It is tons of fun. You will learn plenty of new skills. See you next time. Take care all. Bye-bye.
Me wind and rain, you're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my ass.